Welcome back to our skill development series. We spend a lot of time talking about the observable behaviors that are unique to us and also not from our natural style, but also when we adapt. We're going to keep that focus and that learning intact as we start to move to a whole different section of the report talking about our motivators. So, although we'll keep the four elements of DISC at the forefront of what we do, we're going to move into some different categories here. We start, as we do with every session, very specifically this. Our mission is still to become the world's greatest expert on ourselves. The vision of this remains also the same, to create desirable applicants through our opportunities, our processes, and our experiences. The objective specifically when we talk about the motivators, however, starts to change a little bit from the conclusion. We want to best understand our personal and our professional preferences so that our actions specifically align for superior performance and satisfaction. So as we talk about the settings that we're in, the places that we put ourselves, how do they best align with some of our behavioral styles, our communication skills, our strengths, and our different practices. So let's dive in. Today, we left off our last session talking about with an introduction of the 6 motivator categories. So we're going to start to dive into what each one of these mean today, and then we'll get forward with today's activity. You'll see the 6 motivator categories: theoretical, utilitarian, aesthetic, social, individualistic, and traditional. We all have these 6 categories somewhere within our makeup and our personal and professional lives. But many of these are more pronounced than the others, and we actually prefer these settings or these types of motivators in our different personal and professional settings. We're going to go through each one of these, and we're going to assign a designation to each one of them. So we often look at the mainstream. We also can be considered passionate in an area, indifferent, or in some cases extreme. We'll talk about what the meanings of those are, but they're personalized to the way we react and the way we feel in different types of settings. We look on page 5 of the motivator graph. Each one of the bars are structured the same, but the first thing we want to draw our attention to is the star that indicates what your score is. The second, we look at the mean score. So if we take a look at all the population that took the DISC assessment, this would be the mean or the average of where everybody falls in has taken this assessment within each individual motivator category. This blue bar that represents the shifts up and down this graphic indicates where 68% of the population is. So if you took 68% of the population who have taken this similar type of assessment, they would fall somewhere within here. Your star indicates where you fall at, and the mean line indicates what the mean of the population would be. We then begin to put a designation on there based upon where your star is. So for example, here, if your star falls within that 68% of the population, you'd be considered mainstream in that motivator category. If you start to fall just one standard deviation point out to the right, you would be considered passionate in that area. And a third, if you start to see it to the left of the population, a score there is indifferent. There isn't a ranking on these, whatever they are. Again, they're personalized to you and starts to help you gain an understanding of when I find myself in these types of environments, I feel more energized, I feel more at peace, I feel more comfortable in my settings. Our goal in this whole series is for you to be able to recognize those types of environments and then put yourselves in those types of positions, hoping for both personal and professional success. So we're going to break down quickly each motivator category. We're going to name it, and we're going to talk about the values that drive our behaviors and emotions, because that's the function or the purpose of the motivators is what starts to drive our behaviors and emotions. So you see the theoretical category here. You have a designation of it, and we want to make sure that we highlight what that is. A theoretical person values learning and knowledge and the discovery of truth and what they're looking for. These are things that are factual that they can prove based upon individual learning. They have a cognitive attitude, meaning that they want to think about things, that any type of situation that they come in, they want to approach it. And there's a value in gaining an order and systemizing the knowledge that they have in place. So oftentimes when I learn things, how well can I organize it so that it leads me to some type of factual conclusion? If we started to put words to this association of how I would better describe a theoretical person, those that have a high level are considered either mainstream or passionate, and a motivator designation would start to use words like inquisitive, investigative, or even studious in times. Those that would be indifferent to the whole theoretical motivator category might be considered reflective, street smart, or intuitive, simply meaning they're relying more on themselves than they would on the knowledge that they're trying to gain. Moving to the utilitarian category. Again, each of us have a designation in that, and we want to make sure that we note that on the report itself, whether we're indifferent, mainstream, passionate, or extreme. A utilitarian values practical accomplishments. So in that, wants control over their environment, is most interested in what is useful to them and to the environment that they're in. If we want to put words to that, again, if you fall somewhere into the passionate or to the extreme part of utilitarian, you can be considered competitive, incentivized, and practical. These are things that are going to leading to very specific outcomes. Somewhere below the line, if you're indifferent, more judicious, relaxed, and supportive of other people's accomplishments, oftentimes leaving yourself out of the limelight. The third motivator category we're going to talk about today is aesthetic. There's a value on the beauty and the balance and the harmony of the environments that we're in. When all things are working together, the environment itself is very easy for us and is beautiful, and it all kind of fits into place in a very artistic standpoint. You're judging each event by the grace and symmetry and fit. Do these types of events fit together to create more of an artistic or creative feel that flows very much with nature instead of being very systemized and organized? And that life is enjoyed through beauty. If we look at the words that would oftentimes describe that, those with a more passionate or extreme aesthetic and motivator would be oftentimes unconventional, divergent, or imaginative about how they would go about their environments. Those with a more of a less mainstream or indifferent to the aesthetic category would be very sensible in how they would go about things, or realistic a look, or very practical in their outcome. As we move to the social motivator category, again, we all have that designation that we'll have you note on here. There's a value of being with service and very much of a love of people, those that have a high level of a social motivation, that they drive our behaviors and emotion. These oftentimes are individuals who need to be around people and be of service to people and helping them, more importantly than yourself, achieve some type of social outcome. The primary form for these individuals is the human relationship. So if you have a high social motivator category, you being around people, you being in environments where you're interacting with people, working toward a common good is going to be of extreme priority to you. If we start to put words again, if you're more of a mainstream, passionate, or extreme in a motivator designation, sacrificial meaning working for others, obliging or supportive, helping others form that as a primary form of human relationship. Those below the line oftentimes are helpful, self-protective, or suspicious. It doesn't mean that you don't like people at the same time, but you're more inclined to be protective of your own ideas or suspicious of what other ideas might be than those who want to be in the more social category, more of a carefree type of environment. As we move to the individualistic category, again, we have one of the four designations. These individuals value personal freedom, they value achievement, and they value accomplishment. Independence is them and making sure that they are able to control their own destiny. And they want to protect the sovereignty, in other words, the control of their surroundings. When they are able to be in control of their own environment, where they, to the very best of their ability, control their outcome and the specific next steps, they're motivated by that level of sovereignty that they have. If we're taking a look at words that would best describe the individualist category, those that are self-reliant, creative, and balanced, they want to be in control of their own outcome. Those below the line that maybe are indifferent to the individualistic are more cooperative, allowing others around them to set rules for them. They're accommodating what do other people want, which is a higher priority than maybe my own needs, and those are supportive of other people's ideas. Our final category is a traditional. Again, we all have the designation of it, whether it be indifferent, mainstream, passionate, or extreme. This is a systems-based. This doesn't mean we're always doing it the way it's been done in the past, but you're very systems-based in an order type of an environment. You have a unique system of driving values. You have a structure, order, system, and processes that drive the way you do the environment and the environments that you operate best in. They're governed by rules and regulations and principles. It's okay that somebody else sets them, or even if you have to set them, but you want very clearly defined expectations into what type of system that you're operating in. You look at the words with those that have more of a passionate or extreme traditional motivator category. They're oftentimes systematic. They're orderly and very disciplined in how they go about things. Those that are more indifferent to the traditional style oftentimes are considered open-minded, more flexible, or independent in how they operate. These categories work together. We all have different categories. We have different placements in each one of the 6 categories, but we all share these 6 common traits. Similar to the DISC style when we said what levels are the D, the I, the S, or the C, one motivator category isn't considered better over the other. We all have these unique traits that we operate best in. Looking to pair these together, though, with our observable behaviors, how can we best put ourselves in these types of environments? This starts to get to the question of why do we do what we do and what drives us to do it. So when we're entering into different environments or we're trying to put ourselves in different places, how do we can start to look at, am I going to have a successful outcome? Am I going to be more comfortable in these types of environments? And does it start to relate to some of my motivators that I very clearly can define? As we work through today's activities, Not only we're looking to describe today's motivators, but how do I start to put myself in these types of environments where I can recognize them and set myself up for superior performance and success. In our next session, we'll start to work on it where you can start to find alignment with your disc behaviors into the motivator categories that we talked about today. I hope you look forward to today's activity.